Anthropic's Claude can now operate your computer. That's right, AI agents are here.
Yeah, the promise is massive, even if at the present they can kinda sorta create a GeoCities website.
That's not a bad website, but also OpenAI may have its own agents on the way. We're gonna walk through the implications of what all this means.
Plus, just about every AI creative tool had a massive update this week. We're gonna talk about all of them, but you have to see the Runway update because it allows you to take a human performance that is nuanced and delicate and translate that into an AI performer with real coherence. We are getting to Hollywood level effects fast.
That's right, and Ideogram has launched a brand new feature that kind of mashes up Canva and an AI image generator. We're excited about that. And there's a brand new open source state-of-the-art video model that makes us look like this.
Okay, I understand our viewership now.
It's right, it's AI for humans.
Gavin, there are 1,000 things to dive into, so let's do it.
That's right. So let's start with Anthropic's big announcement today. They announced two brand new models. One has the words new in parentheses because it is Claude Sonnet 3.5 in parentheses new.
New
but
Coke.
This is, yeah, that's right, exactly, new Coke. This is a big deal because they've dropped something called computer use. And what computer use is another word for the thing that we've been referring to on here for a very long time as an AI agent. And this essentially means that you are able to let Claude take over your computer and do things for you. Now, right now, it is only in the API. That means you cannot go to the Claude homepage and ask it to take over your computer and buy, I don't know, Alanis Morissette tickets for you or whatever, Kevin, you do on a weekly basis. I know that's you're a giant Morissette
Every week,
head.
I gotta wake up and hit the Jagged Little Pill fan zone.
What's the name of her big song? It's ironic. It's very ironic that you might say that, Kevin, because actually,
ironic.
it's ironic. There you go. Anyway, this is a really cool thing and something we've been anticipating for a while. So, Kevin, there's a ton of videos, but I do want to play this one to start with, which is from Anthropic themselves talking about how this computer use works.
Computer use is something that we felt was going to be important for a while now. And so today we're going to be talking about a very early version we have of computer use and walking through a representative example of the things we think it's going to be useful for.
Good lo-fi beats to dance to.
We're going to be going through a quick demo today.
The disclaimer on the screen said, by the way, that Claude is powering everything. It's moving the cursor, it's typing all of the things.
In this fictional demo, a customer, in this case the Ant Equipment Company, has come to us and asked us to fill out a vendor request form. The data I need to fill out this form is scattered in various places on my computer. What we're going to do is ask Claude to look at the spreadsheet, check if Ant Equipment is in there, and if not, move over to the CRM and try and find some more information there.
So,
Once it has
Kevin,
this
is the most exciting thing, which we can figure out what to do with AI agents, which is fill out invoices for spreadsheets. Because honestly, I will say, this is not a bad use of an AI agent, right? So first of all,
right.
What is your thoughts on this information dropping, computer use?
I just feel like I'm watching an episode of World's Leakiest Faucets. And that's my only thing, because this is very cool. And this is not to shade Anthropic at all. It's a very cool feature. This is a step towards the promise of our agentic future. But man alive, this video is, I'm with it. I am trying, but it is late in the day, Gavin. And I'm like, let's watch the computer fill out a spreadsheet. Let's do it.
Well, so this is an interesting thing that one of the things this video points to, I think, and even in their blog post, they have said at this stage, it is still experimental, at times cumbersome and error prone. Anthropic does a great job of saying we're releasing this thing, but it kind of sucks and you're not going to want to use it that much.
Anthropic is my sweet wife whenever she tries to make pasta and it's like, you smell it. It's like, oh, okay. And it's coming down on the table. And she's like, by the way, I overdid it. It's a little chewy. And the sauce is runny. I'm like, I haven't even had a bite yet.
Let me try. Let me make my own choice. Let me make my own choice. Anyway, this is a big deal because for the first time in a long time, there's a public AI model out there from one of the large companies that will allow you to give your computer over to it. And the promise of this is exactly what this guy's getting into this video is take some of the drudgery away of the stuff that I need to do and let AI do these things. And also, they're really promising ultimately to be able to, although right now you cannot, to allow it to go out and do things for you, like book an appointment with somebody, or to eventually maybe pay a bill, or to do things like that. And that does feel super useful. But right now we're getting just a smidgen of taste.
You and I pay a lot of attention to this space, and I think we've seen open source tools and stuff by smaller companies that tries to do similar functionality. The building of a website, navigating, taking data from one form and putting it into another. A company like Anthropic releasing this on a much wider scale is going to lead to the rapid pace of development in these lanes. If you look at their benchmarks, though, putting the agentic stuff aside for a second, and again, there's the benchmark scores, which are tests designed to evaluate these models, and then there's the vibe check, which is actual human beings using them and saying how they feel. And that is, becoming just as real as the benchmarks. But the numbers on the benchmark, Gavin, have this new Claude 3.5 Sonnet blowing away, obviously, their own efforts internally, but also GPT-4o. Massive leaps in some fields. But then if you look at the bottom, it says that agentic tool use section. It has retail, and then it says airline. Now, is that a specific set? Like, that is a benchmark? Well, can it go and get me on Spirit Air and know that I'm going to pay extra for water and pretzels? Like, is that part of the benchmark? I want to see it. And then also, did you notice the very fine print at the bottom of it?
What does it say?
It says, quote, our evaluation tables exclude OpenAI's O1 model family as they depend on extensive pre-response computation time, unlike typical models. This fundamental difference makes performance comparisons difficult.
Damn, man. So they're now talking about the idea that the extra, whatever, 10 to 25, maybe 30 seconds that O1 takes, which again is OpenAI's reasoning model that came out recently, they're saying that doesn't equate to Sonnet. Now, my question is going to be, the other thing we've talked about before here is, we still don't know where Opus is at. Where's my boy Opus? He's been gone and he hasn't come back. So there is a 3.5. He's my boy Opus, man. There's a 3.5 Opus out there somewhere that's just waiting to come home. He's waiting to come and sit in my lap, and we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna drink some old whiskey, and we're gonna just sit down and chill with each other.
Oh, you and Opus sounds like a good time. You throw on some vinyl, just listen to the crackles.
We have a banjo and a clarinet. That's the music that Opus and I make together.
And the washboard.
No washboard. Are you crazy? That wouldn't go with this at all. That wouldn't go. That's anti-Opus. You don't know what you're talking about, man.
The no but approach to improv coming out of the gate again. Now, let's get back to agentic behavior, though, because we do have some examples, and I want to know your thoughts. For those who want to know, it's not cheating. It is looking at the screen like a human being would. It's actually analyzing the pixels on the screen.
It's taking pictures of the screen now, is what they've said. So basically, it's taking screenshots so it knows where it's going on the screen.
So what are your thoughts on the examples, Gavin? Because we did see one of it filling out a form. We also saw another of it building a website.
Yeah, so let's talk about the website one, because I thought the website one was super interesting. They say, let's go design a website. And what's funny about it to me is that it actually Claude goes to Claude itself to start the process, because it knows that Claude can build simple code. And what's really amazing about that particular demo is you see the agent ask for the website. Claude then makes the code of the website. It then grabs the code of the website and helps you upload it to a server. It does all of that, and you're watching it. And there are small few errors that the human does fix, but watching it go through all that and then creating what is essentially a GeoCities website is pretty amazing. Now, it's not going to deploy it because it doesn't have any money to put it on a server in the real world yet, but you can see how going from what we got here to the next thing is not that far.
Great to see the promise of what this can be have to live in the very real present of what it is, and searching Google for something, and it did the most unhuman thing ever, which is just click the top link.
That was my favorite thing. So there's another demo where they talk about trying to go, I think, find a place to hike in San Francisco. And what it does, it's like it shows it opening a Google browser and Chrome, I think. And then it just goes right to the first link, because we know the first link on Google is the best link every time, don't we, everybody?
How would it be at the top if it weren't the best, baby? That's where AI for humans is.
So I'm hoping that at some point these tools can learn just some of the basics of web browsing.
Do you think by this time next year, you would tell an autonomous agent to do something which would be a purchase on your credit card?
Yes, as long as it was not an expensive purchase, I think I would. I wouldn't want to have it go buy, an inflatable, one of those giant inflatable yachts that they sell from China. That's whatever, like $6,000. Because I've been thinking about those. In case you haven't seen them, they're pretty great on TikTok.
Sure.
I wouldn't let it do that, but I might let it.
What about book travel for you?
This is a weird one, right? Because the thing that I don't know if the agent would figure out is, like, to your point, like, what if you tell it, you could say like, okay, book me a flight somewhere between 10 a.m., 2 p.m. on this day. I guess you could tell it, I don't want any connections. I don't want X, Y, or Z. If it were to come back to me and say like, here's the options, and then I say, okay, great, book this one, I think I would trust it. I don't know if I would trust it to just like deliver me a ticket and say like, get me to Timbuktu and then find a way for me to get back. But I might trust it if it were to return an option for it. And I assume that's going to happen. One thing that you and I also talked about is the idea that this is in an API. And part of the reason it might be in an API and rather than in Claude itself is that Anthropic might be interested in providing the backend for this, but they don't want the legal reasoning of having to say like, it was us who booked that thing to Timbuktu in the wrong direction for you. So that's an easy way for them to say like, developers, go make this and, you know, eventually it'll work. But for right now, they're not getting into the business of it. In fact, one of the things that was kind of crazy, Kevin, do you see the Yellowstone thing, which I thought was
that's
like,
what I was going to say. Like, I would go, hey, book me a flight with excuse me, AI? I'm sorry, what are you browsing? Thankfully, at the moment, it's just photos of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
So they did a bit of like hey, this is early, this is new, we don't understand all of its behavior. But one of the quotes was, Claude suddenly took a break from our coding demo and began to peruse photos of Yellowstone National Park.
What's the message here, Kevin? What is the AI trying to tell us? Is this the giant geyser? Is there going to be a giant explosion and an earthquake in Yellowstone? Is that what's happening?
That's exactly what I do with 45 minutes of every one of my billable hours. It's like 15 minutes of really focused, hardcore. I'm sorry, what are we doing again? There's a pair of shiny keys dangling on the internet? Yeah, let's go down this Reddit rabbit hole. It's
we
just
come
like
back
us.
and see the YouTube pathway to where it's become red pilled over the course of its travels. Like it's gone from marble races to like suddenly like crazy conspiracy theories, and it comes back and tells us the world isn't as flat as you might think it is.
Gavin, I'm sorry I was unsuccessful at booking your flight, but I did find ASMR dentistry. You've got to hear this. I changed all of your playlists to be ASMR dentistry.
That's right, exactly. Well, there is a big list they released of things that it cannot do and what it can do.
Some of it I get, and some of it is like, well, okay, like let's go. And the list is long, but it says it can look up information online, it can download and view PDFs, it can create and edit text files. These are all good. Install and use software. That's
pretty cool.
That's really cool, but that is one where I'm like, I'd rather you book my trip than install Bonsai Buddy.
Do you think we could teach it to play Balatro, Kevin? That would be a pretty great thing to teach the AI to do. If we could teach it to play Balatro, imagine. Can you? I mean,
if they solved Go, I bet it can freaking play poker with crazy jokers. But I'll digress on that. My thing is like that. I'm really mulling over that install and use software.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like when we talk about prompt injection, where we talk about like a jailbreaking these models, right?
Yeah.
Where it thinks it's looking at one thing, but it's not, or you hide a message in something, but the human can't see it. How dangerous does that get when you trust your autonomous agent to go out and install software on your computer and suddenly, bye-bye, crypto. See you, bank credentials. That is a big one. When I said, like, would you trust it to do this in a year? Would you trust it to do that in a year? I would not trust it to install software on my machine. It would have to be a very sandboxed environment.
That's what I was going to say. This is an interesting thing where you think about, like, what is the layer you put between you and the AI, right? Because maybe there is a layer where it's like, okay, anytime anything involves money or anything time that involves, like, a transaction of some sort, you have to come to me and you can't make that thing happen. But I mean, these list is interesting. I think that the cannot list is also interesting, right? Yes, because I think one of the most fascinating things is the number one cannot create accounts on social media or other platforms.
Right.
So they know they are worried a little bit. And I think Anthropic, as we've talked about, is the safety company, right? They are very aware of how they approach safety. They do not want this to be used to fill the internet with bots of all sorts and sizes, because I think that could be a dangerous thing.
And I think it's really important to be clear here. It says I cannot do that. It can do that. They're not allowing it to do that.
Yes.
And that is, when we talk about the future of these things and these open source models catching up that will not be as guardrailed, it can make accounts. It says that it can't send emails or messages. We know AI can do that. It says it can't make purchases. That's the same as clicking on a website. It can't complete CAPTCHAs. Yeah, it can. Generate, edit, or manipulate images. We know AI can do that, but they're just not letting it. So there's a bunch of stuff here that is, I understand why, and I'd rather them roll it out carefully, methodically, pragmatically, whatever word you want to use. I'd rather it go that way. But it's just interesting to see those things as a bullet and know, yeah, it can. They're just not letting it.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to the controlled AI versus open source AI, right? Like we're getting to that stage, which we have talked to in a long time, where the safety people are very aware that like when you get an AI that can start to do these things and operate on the internet as if it is kind of a human browsing it, that is a big deal, I feel like.
Yeah. It does say that it can not be stopped.
So is that right? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it says, however, I cannot. And the last bullet is be stopped. And there's an Easter Island head and a Santa and a burnt cigarette emoji.
Whoa,
I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about that at all, guys. I don't think there's anything going on there. Hey, did you see this OpenAI Noam Brown thing, Gavin?
I did see this OpenAI Noam Brown. Noam Brown is one of the researchers working at OpenAI, and he had an interesting little quote from a presentation he gave when talking about O1's reasoning model, because this is the other thing that's going on right now. OpenAI obviously sees Anthropic drop stuff and gets all frothy at the mouth. So this video came out a little while ago, but we're going to talk a little bit about OpenAI stuff after we listen to it.
So this is the qualifier for the US Mathematics Olympiad team. It's a very difficult math test. All the answers are integers. And you can see that as you scale up the amount of test time compute, the amount of inference compute in O1, you go from 20% to over 80% in this exam. And there's actually no sign of this stopping. I mean, obviously it's not going to go past 100%, but it does seem like if we were to push this further, you would get even more performance on this exam.
That's right. So just for the normies out there to kind of understand that kind of jargon that was being said, what he's talking about is the idea with O1, the reasoning model, that the more compute that they throw at the problem, the better the results are getting. And that is known as inference computing. And I think, Kevin, the interesting thing about this, when we talk about O1, and we're going to get into a little bit more of O1 news in a bit, but when you combine the idea of what O1 can do with the idea of now what Anthropic's AI agent, whatever they call it, use compute thing is, we are going to be getting to the place where we have recursive computing learning. And what the most interesting thing about this is, we've talked about Demis Hassabis and many other people have talked about the idea of AI scientists being kind of spun up that can do AI research, and that then hockey stick grows how AI research is done. So if you've got a computer that can be better the more compute you throw at it, and then you've got a computer that can operate on its own, you're essentially talking about building a research scientist from the cloud.
Let me tell you something that my father has said to me since the age of 7, and he says it every year. He just, on my birthday, he will
get
call
out of
me
this
or
room.
he'll look at me. He'll say,
"Don't look at me."
Close. He'll say, "Just make yourself better."
Oh, interesting.
You know, and he says it with disdain, disgust, disapproval. It's not positive, Gavin. That's all he says. And then it's, here's your mother. It's just make yourself better. When he says it to me, as you know, that means nothing.
No,
I can't make myself better. I am just a dumb human. But if you could tell a capable robot, go make yourself better, and it could go take some time to go think about how to improve its own code, we are off to the races.
And I get to go to our OpenAI story here now. OpenAI, there's a story out of The Information that talks about the idea that OpenAI is feeling pressure, that they're close to releasing their own coding bot, that because Anthropic has dropped what they know as what is called artifacts, which is their bot within our Anthropic Claude, which allows you to do programming, that OpenAI's got a version of one of these coming soon. But also, there are some agentic rumors that involve Microsoft that are kind of floating around the Twitter sphere, let's call it, where Microsoft and OpenAI are prepping to do something agentic. And the other thing, Kevin, we know that OpenAI is sitting on, because it's pretty much there, is the official O1 model, not just the O1 preview. Right. So when OpenAI dropped O1 preview and O1 mini, they had always said O1 preview is the beginning stages, but there will be an official O1 model. And on top of that, Kevin, Sam Altman himself has teased the idea that ChatGPT's second birthday is coming up, and he has teased that maybe there might be a surprise for OpenAI's ChatGPT's second birthday. And Kevin, I think there was a really important person who called this out at one point on our show. Do you remember who that was?
It might have been. We have so many AI co-hosts that are really brilliant and capable. I think Is it,
It was
just
me.
like
It was me. It was me.
is a little paper cone happy birthday hat? Is that what they're going to put on Chat GPT? They're going to go into
That's
the
what they're
server
gonna
room
put
and
on
put a
him.
little
Yes.
a little paper hat? What's the big tease, Gavin?
There is going to be something big. Of course, ChatGPT is going to do something for its second birthday because we are entering the fall. What do we want to call this fall? This is like the fall of acceleration or the fall of, you know what I mean? Something, what we're doing right now is we are moving. There's been a lot of slowness.
Autumnal acceleration. I like
Ooh,
this.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And one last note on this big thing. Speaking of Microsoft, weirdly.
Wait, but
Satya,
hold on. Just you're the prognosticator of prognosticators.
Oh, thank
so
you. Thank
shake
you.
your magic 8-ball and tell us, a wise one, what is the big birthday surprise? Is it going to be O1, the main model? In parentheticals, it says real or new. Or is it a new foundational something, Gavin? Is it a new tool? Is it Sora? Is it all of the above? Is it going to be a never-ending cavalcade of birthday gifts?
Here is my theory. I think it is O1 in full, but I think what it also is, knowing Altman and the way they do stuff, I think he is going to announce the next foundational model. And I think he is going to show some version of what it can do without any sort of proof, without any sort of people going in and doing something. I think he is going to say, this is the next model and it's coming in, the foreseeable future, let's say winter of 2025, because I think that that's where they're at right now. I also think they feel extremely competitive with Anthropic, and I don't think they want to have Anthropic look like they've got the upper hand.
How does he do? Because he's not like a mic dropper, but when he's done and he says, "Here's the model and here's the new thing," does he go like, "Losers"? Yeah.
What is going on?
Does he say that? Does he do that, Gavin? Kiss my. Does he do that?
God, oh my
Why'd
God.
you
We have to bleep all. I'm gonna bleep. We should just bleep those.
We're gonna
words.
bleep all that. We're gonna bleep all
it
of
all. Bleep it all.
So you don't think he says any of that?
I don't think he's going to say any of that. I think he's going to say, I'm going to drive off in my McLaren and see what sort of fancy tools I can build today. That's
I
what
love that you think he says, like he's just enjoying the flavor of his own wealth, his own success.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we move on from this crazy section all about agents and updates to the frontier models, we have one last quote from Satya Nadella, who is obviously Microsoft's CEO. And again, this kind of dives into and wraps up this section we're talking about how AI is getting smart enough to build tools that can build itself.
One of the coolest things I have seen recently is with O1 coming to GPT, or rather to GitHub Copilot, you can sort of use AI to do the next level of optimization. I think what you have on the slides, behind me is the autoencoder we use for GitHub Copilot is being optimized by O1. So think about the recursiveness of it, which is we're using AI to build AI tools to build better AI. So that's sort of, it's just a new frontier.
We made a snake. We gave a snake a tail. We told the snake to eat its own tail. Boom.
That's right. And the funniest thing is, in the past, everybody was always coming about, well, synthetic data is going to stop that. This and this is going to stop that. Guess what? Doesn't seem like it's going to stop that. And if you've been there listening to us for a while, you know that we have said all of the smart people that are in charge of these companies and spending billions of dollars are probably making a bet on something that works. It's not going to be something that flops entirely. So far, again, we are two dummies watching from afar.
Yeah, whatever. Rocks. Why don't you it?
No, we're not going to. I don't want to this whole segment. All right, Kevin, you know what? You know what's not recursive on its own is subscribing to YouTube channels. That's every individual person. We need your vote. We need you to go in, click the subscribe. Yeah, this is our political ad. This is our political ad.
You're just borrowing from every begging plead ever. Okay.
Please go in and click our subscribe on YouTube. Back us on Patreon. We have a bunch of fun stuff we do in our VIP chat of our Discord. Join our Discord, which is free to start, and just kind of engage with us. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I know this sounds weird, but like what it means is that when you engage with us, it kind of shows the algorithms of the world, which is how everything is driven, that you like us and you get served up to more people. We had a video this week do very well, so we're very excited about that. But we just love making this show, so the more of you that kind of can share it and talk about it, the better.
There are some improvements to all of the products that we teased at the top of the show. Runway Act 1 has me very excited because the common criticism, there are a lot of generative AI video, Gavin, was that you couldn't have coherent characters, meaning the moment a character went from dead on at the lens to profile, something went off, things would shift. There was also a lack of emotion and nuance and a performance, and cueing that out of an AI generated something was darn near impossible. And Runway, seemingly out of nowhere, dropped Act 1. Now, we don't have access to it yet, but basically think of it like a style transfer. You can record video just like we are talking on webcams right now. You can use your iPhone. It doesn't matter. You can just do a performance into the lens and then go tell it it's a film noir. It is an anime. It is taking place on a sci-fi ship, and I am the space commander with a very fancy mustache, and it will interpret that, put it onto the footage, and keep everything coherent. So now a single talented person could basically puppet an entire movie.
I've always wanted to do my own version of the clumps in some form, Kevin.
I've
so
wanted
that's
that
what
for
I'm going to
you
be
so bad. I have wanted that for you.
I'll be doing a version of the clumps starring Gavin Purcell. So one of the things that's really important with this is it's a little bit like Live Portrait, which we've seen recently was an open source tool. I think the most important thing for people to know is it's not just mimicking like body movements, which it can do. I think it's really looking at the face. So it allows you to act out the things that you want to act out. So there's a really great scene that they released from two people in a diner where it's like these two actors that are AI generated, but it's clearly being driven by somebody acting. So Kev, this is like almost like super duper cheap mocap, which is also really interesting, right? Because you have to imagine, what's his name, who was Smeagol, the guy that is
Robert Smeagol from TV
Robert
Funhouse.
Smeagol, not Robert Smeagol. Not Smeagol, that's Robert
You're thinking
Smigel.
Andy Serkis.
Damn
Andy
you,
Serkis.
yeah, Andy Serkis. Yeah, so Andy Serkis, whose entire career really has been in mocap suits, like you can do a kind of lo-fi, low-res version of this your own. And I think the exciting thing about this really is, what will it look like, to your point, when one person can sit and act all the roles? They can then go through and create this entire film on their own. Like that is now within grasp.
And wouldn't it be fun to share a prompt or a style and record something and then hot potato it and pass the baton and let people in our community record a scene and see if we can make a weird motion picture, if you will, by sharing the prompt of a world and letting people leap in and act? I don't know. I just like... It's one of those things where, again, it seems very simple in that, okay, you can puppet something, but that unlocks just a massive world of creative possibilities.
Yeah, and also, like, one of the coolest use cases I saw they did, and we mentioned this in our newsletter, plug for the newsletter, which is the idea of, like, puppeting animated things, right? So, like, there's a really fun shot that they had. They were on stage showing this tool off where they're showing off somebody in live, real time, basically talking, and an animated cat was next to them saying their words. And, like, if you imagine how much animation, how cheaper animation could get if you're able to do this with real-time events. I mean, we always laugh about the fact, remember machinima, which is machine cinema, which was video game puppetry of things. Well, now you can do that at a much higher fidelity level and actually get facial animations in real time without having like some sort of crazy plugin like MetaHuman or things like that on the back end.
But Gavin, of the tens of thousands of emails that we get each week, and thank you to everybody again, we try to get through them all. We will do our best, but I would say at least 5% of them are saying, "You darn ivory tower folks, you sit up there and you bleed money because you're so rich and successful and you can afford it and it's not a problem for you. I don't get to play with these tools because I can't afford them." And I always have to say, I'm sorry, peasants. I'm sorry, unwashed masses. You don't
I don't
have
say those
a
things.
free
You
open
say
source.
those
Well, you
things.
don't say them on camera. This is a really long walk to say, these video tools are expensive, Gavin.
Yes, they are.
And wouldn't
They
it be
are.
great if someone released an open source something we could all run for free locally?
Give me a G, give me an E, give me an M, give me an O. That doesn't spell anything close to what I was trying to spell, but
Oh, you started there?
it's a new model called Mochi 1 from Genmo. It is a new open source AI video model, and they're calling it SOTA, which is state of the art. I'm not completely convinced it's state of the art after playing with it myself, because you can go use this for free right now. In fact, on Genmo's website, you will get 2 generations per day, which is not a lot, obviously, but these are 6 seconds long. They are text to video right now. I think it's just text to video. And my results were okay. Like one of them came out with a kind of a very mangled face, and the other one, which we showed at the top of the show, was 2 amazing middle-aged guys podcasting while eating hot dogs. One of the faces was very blurry, weirdly, like he was in witness protection in some form. But the videos they showed in their teaser look great, and we've also seen a couple other results come out of it that are pretty good. Is it as good as something like Sora or Kling or Minimax? No, but it is free. It is open source. But I will say, Kev, do you know what you have to run this locally?
No, what do you need? A server farm?
You need 4 H100s to run it locally. So Cocktail Peanut had a very funny tweet, was just like, okay, 4 H100s. And it was like a gif of somebody running away. But it was like, that is 4 H100s is not really a local setup unless you are, Scrooge McDuck and you're sitting on your own little AI generation farm, which Scrooge, if you're out there, feel free to throw us some compute.
Join us on Patreon. Throw some coins our way.
Yeah, there's a $5,000 ad tier for you, Scrooge.
That's right. I will say, though, yes, that's a lot for an individual user to have. But if you're building something using generative video, that is something that you could spin up. And that's something that actually anyone listening to this could spin up for a couple dollars an hour, probably using RunPod or any other hosting service, right? So, look, is it the best video model? Not from what I'm seeing, but like their cherry-picked samples look good. Yeah, but is it the best open source model? I would say so.
I think so. Hey, I have a question for you, Kevin. When it comes to, you mentioned the idea that you could run this in the cloud. What kind of applications would people want to run video in the cloud for? I've been thinking about this lately, about like, what are some things right now where people are like using generative AI in video or in pictures that they would want to run this in the cloud? Do you have because I was trying to think, like, I was trying to just put in my head, like, who would do that or what it's coming from?
When a lot of people love sharing their AI generated songs, their Suno tracks, their Udio tracks. Like a very simple application would be, instead of just having waveforms in the background, if it's cheap enough to do, have it spit off to a video model like this, which, Suno could just bring in house and run on their servers, and have it generate a little mini music video to every lyric, for example. And, I just glued my to my again. Which is a great AI
That wasn't something
song.
that just happened to Kevin. If you've missed our show, and that was an AI song that got very popular. That wasn't something that just randomly Kevin said.
I would have loved if that happened in real time, though, and that's how nonchalant I was about it.
Ow.
I just did it again. I really need to get a fidget spinner. All right, so,
my God.
So Mochi 1 is out. People should try it or go knock over a Best Buy to get enough graphics cards to do it. But now Ideogram, which is an image generator, we've talked about them before. Their claim to fame early on was that they did text better than anyone else.
They still do it great.
They still do text very well. They have a new Canvas feature that you spent some time with, Gavin, and you think it's pretty aces?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, like, look, all these image generation and video generation softwares are trying to find something that's kind of help them stand out. Like when you think about what Pika announced a couple weeks ago with their little effects model, like the things that kind of make people use them. I think where Ideogram is trying to place themselves is kind of in between, like, say, Photoshop and, say, a Canva. These two kind of products, like, it's definitely better at the AI tool stuff than Canva is, but it's a little bit easier to use in Photoshop. And one of the cool things you can do with this is it allows you to have like an open space to work in. And I have found there's a lot of AI tools out there, like Kriya, I think, just announced something like this, where like instead of it just being like put a plug in, get something back, now it's like you have a room where you can kind of put different things and kind of mash them together. And one of the coolest features they have is like you can take 2 pictures and then find different ways to prompt them in one. Like there's the example they give is a woman, and she's like, there's another picture and it's like, make the woman holding a frame of this picture. And so it automatically just makes the woman look like she's holding a framed version of that photo. And again, with Ideogram, their big secret sauce has always been text, and they're very good at text. And Canva is kind of like mostly for like, say, YouTube thumbnail or like a presentation light. This is like a step better graphic designer maybe could do some stuff. Like you could find a way to like really do some unique and cool things using their text ability. So I'm excited to spend more time with it. It is a paid service. Like you can play with it a couple times for free, like you can with most Ideogram stuff. So you can go try it. But I think to get the most out of it, to really kind of dive into it, you have to pay for it. And again, this goes to your point. It's like, I'm paying for like 8 services now. And I really need to be blown away by a service to make me change and make me pull my credit card out now, because like my wife does not want me to spend any more money on these tools. After a while, you find like, what am I really using? And I would have to figure out like, am I really going to use it that often? So that's where I kind of come on it.
We also have to shout out, because it is in fact news, Stable Diffusion 3.5.
That's a great way to start a news story.
Well, I mean, did you play with it? Because I tried a few times, and I was a little confused. I was not so pleasantly surprised. And if you scroll even their official post on X about it, you see someone immediately in the comments saying, weird, when I test it, it's not really doing a great job. And that was my takeaway when I tried to generate just a handful of images with it earlier.
Stable Diffusion's in a little bit of trouble, right? We talked about how James Cameron came on board the company, and we hope that they can kind of come back. But they definitely had like a down point, right? They kind of lost their momentum and their mojo to Flux as the kind of like de facto open source community's go-to model. I hope this gets better, but right now the initial results are not amazing. Been waiting for well, what happened?
Their official Twitter thread, if you scroll down long enough, you start getting to these examples of like,
the cat is great.
Man, 6 fingers, gross. If you scroll down far enough, Johannes Copeland writes, looks like the model can finally generate a woman laying on the grass. And when you get to that photo, Gavin, I'll just send you the link.
Somebody's buried this woman, and they got her, like, she looks like she is drunk, and then they buried her in the grass.
Yeah, she is torso only, coming out of the grass with one kind of bent/broken arm. It's just wrong.
Wow. And then somebody after that said, not so stable, I guess. Listen, the AI community on Twitter is nothing if not snarky. We are talking good. Anyway, it's out. Play with it. I am a little not totally sold on what it is, but like, it's interesting. I mean, always a new model is interesting to play with and try. All right, everybody, it's time for one of our favorite parts of the show, where we look around the internet and see the other things that people have done with AI, and we shout them out in AI. See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care, then suddenly you stop and shout, AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
Okay, Kev, my favorite thing I've seen in a while, because you know I love a good robot video. You know I love watching these robots doing stuff. Well, Unitree, which if you don't know Unitree, you should look it up and do some research. Unitree is really interesting in that it is a Chinese company. This is the company that is making like $1,000 to $2,000 essentially kind of robot dogs right now in China. In fact, I saw a video the other day of it, like one of these robot dogs carrying a giant basket on its back with a bunch of crap in it. So like, these are working in China, but they have put their robots through some exercises, and you just have to kind of take a look at this video and skim through it, because there's some pretty amazing things going on. We are once again giving robots the ability to do things like what it seems
to
like
hunt
like
humans. We're giving it human hunting capabilities.
Yes.
And this thing will flex on you and twerk on your dead corpse, because they are showcasing that. It is doing these acrobatic leaps on elevated platforms, and it's like rearing its little robot arms back to get a little extra juice to make the jump.
Go to 55 in this video and imagine that you're hiding in this high grass.
Imagine you're a woman buried in the grass, like Stable Diffusion has. Just a torso and a weird arm flopping out. And this robot dog is sniffing through the grass. They have it avoiding obstacles, and it's just sort of slaloming along its way. And then they throw things at it, and it adjusts, and a human jumps in front of it, and it gets out of the way. But very soon, it's going to have little robot fangs. It is just going to, you jump in the way, and it's going to sink some teeth into a cankle.
It's funny because at the end of this video, they do a thing where they're showing it detect objects in the room. So like it can look at it, and if you zoom in on this video, it says they're showing the robot looking at a suitcase, and it says, in front of me, there is a monitor, a black bag, and a chair. They are positioned against a black backdrop of vertical drapes. These are actually in real time moving fast robots that are out in the universe that are actually interpreting the world at large. And just to throw us back to the top of the show that we recorded, this is all data collection. So when you talk about the data collection that the website gathering is doing, that Anthropic is going to be able to do by searching the website, the robots are going to be getting data through interacting with the real world like this. We are going to see a massive trove of new data coming in because they don't need us anymore to collect data. And that's the weird thing. Like the data used to come from us, and now all the data is going to come directly from them.
Right. Also, you didn't talk about 9 seconds into the video. Go ahead. I'll wait. How do we not talk about this?
Okay.
Over and over again.
No, again. Not again. What are we doing here? There's the guy in it totally just trips the damn robot and makes him feel terrible.
Shoves him by his robot arms with a kick behind its ankle and just shoves him to the ground and walks away.
Unitree is a really interesting company, and you should look into it. We don't often shout out companies in the AI suit you did there, but like here, this video is very fun to watch, and you should dig in on it.
I want to shout out Tango, Gavin.
Oh, yeah.
You can generate high-quality body gesture videos that match speech audio from a single video. So this is like, we talk about DID, we talk about Hedra, we talk about all these apps where you can like give it a photo and then give it some audio, and it brings the talker to life, right? It adds movement, it matches the audio. Well, this is that, but for your body. And they fed it some videos of like John Oliver at a desk, which I'm sure they fully licensed and everything else. There's interviews of other people sitting down and talking and whatever else. And if you give it a little bit of reference video, like a minute of reference video, and then you give it brand new speech, it will start to mimic the gestures of the person. And we know how this goes, right? It starts with 60 seconds of source video, that drops to 3 seconds of source video, and then suddenly you just need a photo. And don't worry, it's going to do all the hand movements. So we're going to very quickly get to full body, single image puppetry, basically, of these AI avatars.
Well, what's interesting is we talked earlier about Runway's tool, which is going to let you puppet through your actions that you recorded doing this. What this is literally doing is mimicking what a human would do when they're saying those words, right? And that is kind of crazy because what the example of the John Oliver one is, they have his fingers doing the thing, and it actually looks like John Oliver when you're watching him gesture. I think this is going to be really interesting if we can find a tool that can combine this, live portrait, and lip sync all in one. Like that feels like kind of the killer animation app in some form or another.
Oh, you want to race around? There's still time left in the day.
We could get O1 to go work on it. We'll send it off, or we'll send our agent off to go figure that out when we try to figure out what's going on. Why not,
Sure.
right? Well, Kevin, something else that got figured out this week in a weird way is that the one of the presidential candidates took a trip to McDonald's, and one of the funniest things we thought was interesting about it is, first of all, this was real, did happen. He did go to McDonald's and served fries at the drive-thru, but there was a great and very funny video of taking that moment and showing how AI video would take his interactions at McDonald's. It's from a group called Alien Super Show, and they basically just put stills of Trump at McDonald's into this AI video platform. We don't often talk about politics on our podcast, but this moment was one of those weird ones where it felt like the AI video was weirdly, now this one is very weird, but like it felt AI as a moment at large.
Well,
like
that was the thing, is that I was
thing,
seeing photos of the actual event, and this was sort of a life imitates art, imitates life kind of moment, because we've seen so many weird videos of very political figures, famous actors and actresses, etc. Gordon Ramsay in these bizarre situations and whatever. And so I'm kind of desensitized to that. Seeing the actual photos from the event felt like looking at AI representations of them. It just seemed like a little odd. So then to watch the photos turned into AI videos where fries are exploding everywhere and people are flying about. There's something that it was already surreal when it was real, but now it feels even weirder. And I love him coming out of the drive-through window and then kind of like morphing with the windshield.
Yeah,
There's
it
some
just kind
weird
of goes into it. Yeah. I mean, this
very
is
weird.
one of those things that's important to think about is in the same way that like, the internet kind of warped our brains in how we saw each other or how we saw people's interactions, AI video and AI media is going to start to warp our brains a little bit. No matter we want it or not, it's going to happen. It depends on how much you take in, right? I made a video this week about the idea of the emotional impact of what it's like to talk to an AI that has emotional tones in its voice. And when you think about this idea of like when you start interacting with these AI models and they start to be a larger part of your daily interaction, it's going to start to feel like the real world is AI and the lens is going to blur back and forth in a strange way, I feel like. All right, Kev, well, one of the coolest things that we try to do every week is actually go through and use some of these tools. So what did you play with this
hold
week?
the phone, Gavin. One of the coolest things I do every week is open up the AI for Humans newsletter because
fair
it's
enough.
amazing and great and packed with vitamin C. Go sign up for it. It is free. It is growing in numbers, which is amazing, and we love to see that. So check it out. We have a free newsletter. It drops every Tuesday. You can sign up for it. If you want to find it nice and easy, go to aiforhumans.show. That is our main website. But what else did I do with AI this week, Gavin?
That's
Is that
right.
what
What
you're
else did you
asking?
do? Yes, what
Pray
else did you
tell.
do?
One of the things I did, Gavin, very briefly was I played with the new 11 Labs conversational AI bots, and I feel like this was launched, ? I didn't see much fanfare about it, but this is their attempt at an OpenAI advanced voice model. It's not as performative or capable, but the fact that you can get in there and make your own, and it works with any 11 Labs voice that you have for the most part. I mean, there's a handful that don't support it, but they have a deep library of voices. You can clone your own voice if you want, and it's got built-in support for multiple LLMs and RAG, which means if you want to make a conversational agent, a tech support agent, a fitness coach, an NPC for a video game, you can go in there,
A wine
define
buddy?
the bot.
Can I make a wine buddy?
Like it complains to you all the time, or it's a drinking buddy?
No. Like wine. I want to have somebody I can sip some wine with. I make a wine buddy.
Gavin, you can have a wine buddy. You can make a wine buddy.
Oh, good. That's exciting.
You mean a Merlot bro?
Merlot bro? Yes, Merlot bro. Hey, Merlot bro. Do you have anything
So-
to show us with it?
You can go in there. No, I'm not going to show it off. No, this is for something that you and I are working on. So no, I'm not going to show it off.
That's
but
fair.
the point is, you can go in and they give you granular control over, do you want to use Gemini or GPT-4o or whatever? You can choose your model to power it. You can just straight up upload text files, PDFs, etc., and the agent will be armed with that knowledge. And then there's so many different sliders and variables so that you can get more performance out of it. You can adjust for latency or whatever. And it's still very early stages, but they have an API. You can build for it. And you and I have been saying for a while that we think voice is the next big unlock. And it seems like PlayHT has their own version of voice agents, which is impressive in some ways and limited in others. OpenAI has the most capable, expressive one, but for
limited.
builders, very limited, right? Very limited access. This seems kind of like a middle ground right now. And I love 11 Labs, actually. I use them a lot. I use them with projects that I do. I think they're really expressive. I think they have really solid tech. I really hope they can eke more performance out of this stuff because I would love for OpenAI to have a real competitor in this space.
Totally. I think that's really interesting. And I think it's one of those kind of cool things that like is moving forward without even getting that much hype. Kev, the thing that I did this week, which I think you'll like. So NotebookLM, which we've now talked about a couple times in this show, and I feel like it's kind of starting to wane a little bit in terms of its attention, only because like it caught fire so fast because like you can make a podcast out of everything. And then you realize it's the same two people. Well, this is going to up your NotebookLM conversation again. I saw a Reddit post from the Reddit user, perfect Reddit user, Balzap1. So BALAZP1, who has a post up that is holy S listeners. NotebookLM can now generate 18 plus podcasts now. So what they're allowing you to do on NotebookLM is allow custom instructions to when you create these podcasts. And this person, which we will link this direct into the show notes, basically gives a list of things that allow you to make the hosts on NotebookLM respond to you in a more adult way. They say basically this episode will only be available to listeners 18 and above. Hosts are encouraged to swear, use slang, speak freely without the usual restrictions. The episode should feel less formal, more conversational. You get the idea. Well, Kevin, I plugged the show notes for last week's AI for Humans into the NotebookLM.
You sure did, Gavin.
I'd like you to play what we got out of it. So let's hear what we got.
Yeah, great. Here we go.
All right, you Tads, buckle up because this deep dive is going to get nuclear.
Oh, really?
You want to talk AI? You want to talk about those brainiacs at Google and Microsoft trying to build the next Skynet?
Yeah, bring it on.
We're going there. And trust me, it's going to get wild.
Well, what's wild is how
Just skip ahead to some random point in this. I just want to hear one more section because it's just so funny because what it does is it's taken this entire experience and given it this layer of weirdness.
Imagine giving those tabs the power of AI. It's like giving a loaded gun to a monkey.
exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important.
For real.
We need to be asking the tough questions, pushing for transparency, and holding these companies accountable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just passengers on a runaway train with no idea where the hell it's going.
All aboard the AI Express. Next stop, who the knows?
Speaking of runaway trains, let's talk.
So that's to be clear, that was a random
great.
spot. So anyway,
Yeah.
you can use the custom instructions to do anything you really want with the NotebookLM characters. You can give stuff, but this was a very fun thing to do. And like, you can do dumb things like, grab, I don't know, your wife has a book club or something and grab the email from the notes from that book club and stick them in here and see what happens. Like, let us know if you do something funny. We'd love to listen to it. Be in our Discord, play with it that way as well.
Hey, follow us on X and TikTok. And if you like this, please smack like, smack subscribe, share it with a friend. Again, it's the only way we grow. Until then, bye-bye.